You want to know something? Overwatch looks really fucking fun. I mean, really fun. Like, even if you hate Blizzard games, I mean, you gotta admit, that Overwatch shit looks really fucking fun. Like, who doesn't? Look at this guy. Look at how badass he is. Yuga wataki kureu. You get to run around as a tower? Who doesn't want to be a tower? You get to play a game where Mordekaiser is actually good. He's actually good in this game. You can play Mordekaiser and you won't lose. It's amazing. Hi there, my name's Donwab. So yesterday, the official death of solo queue was announced. This has sparked a lot of outrage in the community. People, calling Riot liars, saying we're gonna quit League. There's no point. This is the downfall of the game. League will be dead in a few years. Everyone's, this game is going to die because of this decision. Now, dynamic queue is obviously not perfect. There are tons and tons of flaws with it, okay? But I do feel that there are a lot of misconceptions when people are talking about dynamic queue. Now, let me prefix this by saying I do have bias on this issue, all right? I have strong bias, which is I do not like dynamic queue. I am a solo queue player. I have always been a solo queue player. I didn't even duo queue much back when solo queue was a thing, and I would much rather see the old system reinstated. So let's talk about how bad dynamic queue actually is for League. Now, the first complaint that a lot of people are making is that queue times are way too long. Queue times are ridiculously long, and I agree. It's ridiculous. Yesterday, I waited 28 minutes in queue to play a 20-minute game. That is just that is absolutely ridiculous. But dynamic queue is not necessarily the main reason that the queue times are this long. Yes, dynamic queue plays a role. They are a culprit in why queue times are longer, but they are not the main villain. A lot of people, often when they're talking about dynamic queue, they're also talking about the new champion select. The new champion select is simply the ability to pick your role, okay? Dynamic queue is the ability to play ranked with 3 or more people, okay? They are two separate things. This champion select is something that we as a community have asked for a very long time. I love the new champion select compared to the old one. The cost of getting your role more often and not having people say mid or feed during champion select is longer queue times. Now, the solution that Riot has come up to fix queue times is terrible. Autofill is a horrible idea. It basically takes the worst of both worlds. If you've been waiting in queue for longer than, say, 5 minutes, it'll basically just stick you in support. It's like, go play support. You're not waiting any longer. I don't like waiting on average 10 minutes to play a game, okay? But I would much rather wait that 10 minutes and get my role than waiting 3 minutes and getting a role that I don't want. This autofill garbage is not the solution to fix these queue times, okay? You're just gonna make people dodge when they don't get their role, and then queue times are just gonna end up being even longer than they are right now. What they need to do is they need to fix their champion select. I used to love playing support. I was a support top main, and I didn't mind playing support, and I fairly enjoyed it. But because of the new champion select, I can't play support anymore. There is no such thing as a secondary support main. If you pick support as secondary, that is your role. If you put support anywhere, that is going to be your role. What they need to do is they need to increase the number of support players. Autofill does not create more players who want to support. It just forces people to support. So autofill is not going to fix anything. I don't really think it's going to stick around for more than a patch or two. I think autofill is just going to be on another list of Riot's many fuck-ups this month. But the reason that queue times are so long is not because of dynamic queue. It is mainly because of the champion select. Okay, now let's actually talk about dynamic queue. So at the beginning of the season, Riot introduced dynamic queue, and a lot of people, immediately people said, this is a horrible idea. Why are you doing this, Riot? This is going to be awful, right? And Riot said, just try it out. It's the preseason. You guys, it's just the preseason. You got nothing to lose. We're just testing new ideas out, and we're just seeing how it goes, right? Once the actual season starts, we'll give you your solo queue back, okay? We just want to see how good or bad dynamic queue really is. So the community, okay, fine. Fast forward, after a month the season starts, we still don't get solo queue. 2 months, still no solo queue. And then as the time goes on, it becomes more and more apparent that solo queue is probably not coming back. This should not really be a shock to people, alright? I don't really understand why so many people are surprised that solo queue is not coming back. It's like Dad left to go get cigarettes 6 months ago. He's not gonna fucking come back. Personally, I don't really understand why people are really that mad for Riot lying to you. Like, Riot is a company, right? Companies are going to lie to you. Any company that has a PR team is gonna lie. The PR team, that their job is to lie to you. PR stands for pissing on reality because they don't want you to know what's going on. That's their job. I don't get mad at people for doing their jobs. That's like, that's like getting mad that a parent would lie about their child, right? Dynamic Q is basically Riot's child. It's basically its baby. It'll see what it wants to see. Did you hear that Dynamic Q got straight A's in non-toxicity? Now, the main reason people hate Dynamic Q is very simple. They say that Dynamic Q does not provide a competitive experience. Dynamic Q has removed competitiveness from the ladder. Your rank no longer means anything. Now, like I just said, I don't trust Riot. I don't trust the numbers they give out because theoretically they could put out whatever the fuck they want. I don't really know if anything they've said to us is really true. But the one thing I do know is that the ladder is still competitive. Your rank still does mean something. I don't look at Riot's numbers. I don't look at my own performance even. I simply look at who has been thriving in this environment. I look at who does well in this Dynamic Q system. This is the current top 15 players in North America right now. The players that are circled in blue are solo or duo queue players. The players that are circled in red are dynamic queue players, meaning 3 or more in a party. The black players that I've circled are elo whores, which basically they don't play. They get to the top 10 and they play one game a week and they hoard their elo. They're whores. They're hoarders. But if you look at this list, 8 players are dynamic queue players and 5 players are solo queue players. And the number 1 seed is held by a solo queue player. So this is what I look at to know that the ladder is still competitive. Yes, it is obvious that it is easier to climb if you're dynamic queuing, but this does not mean that solo queuers cannot climb. Now, some of you might say, "Oh, but Tong, this is the NA ladder. This North America is basically a wildcard region with good memes. That's nothing, right?" Okay, sure. If you go to EU, if you go to Korea, in the top challenger ladders, it is more heavily populated with dynamic queue players. There are still solo queue players, but it is more dominated by dynamic queue players. But there are still plenty of examples of solo queue players doing really well. For one, North America's own Keith McBrief. He is currently in the top 20 spots in the Korean challenger ladder, and he has played mostly solo queue. So if a North American solo queue player can still rise up in the ranks in the Korean dynamic queue ladder, what excuse do other people have? Dynamic queue at this point has become another version of people saying, "I'm in elo hell." Now, what about matchmaking? You hear a lot about how bad matchmaking is in the higher elos. Matchmaking in the current high elo system is completely fucked up. I don't think anyone is denying this. But the problem is mainly limited to players in Diamond 2 and up, which accounts for about 0.25% of the player base. Frankly, Dynamic Q cannot exist at high elos. It just can't, okay? Dynamic Q in its entirety is designed for casual players. It is designed so that people can play with their friends. That is what it's designed for. It's not designed for nurturing competitiveness. If 3 challenger players queue up together, I don't give a fuck really who you put on their team. Usually they're just going to go up against master tier players and higher diamond players, all right? And usually they're just going to win. But the problem of matchmaking is limited to the higher elos. The reason that high elo matchmaking is so fucked up is because, in the high elos where it's diamond 2 and up, there's only about 5,000 people playing in these elos. Dynamic queue can simply not exist at competitive levels. Now, it is obviously easier to climb in a dynamic queue, in a 3-man, 4-man queue, than it is to play by yourself, okay? Riot admits that, the ladder shows that. So a lot of people will say, "I don't feel like my rank means anything because there are all these other people who have gotten boosted because of dynamic queue." And yes, it is absolutely the case. I know plenty of people who absolutely do not belong in the rank they are currently in. However, there is always going to be a cap to how much they're going to get boosted. Now, let's say that a silver player plays with a bunch of his gold friends and they dynamically boost him into gold. Now, that silver player obviously doesn't belong there, alright? And if you're a gold player who climbed there yourself, you might think, oh, this is bullshit. Wow, he's gold as well. Well, why am I doing this, right? Now, on one hand, you might feel offended that Riot is trying to cheapen your achievement. I worked very hard to get into Diamond, and I know plenty of people who have gotten into Diamond and don't belong in Diamond because of Dynamic Queue. My take on this is, I don't really care that there's people who are in Diamond 5. To me, it would be the same as if they went onto an online site and they paid for it. And there is a limit on how far someone can be boosted. You can't take a bronze player and drag them into platinum unless the people he's playing with are Smurfs. Your team is only as good as your worst player. So that one bronze player is basically the anchor that's holding the team down. Eventually, the other players are going to get sick of him and they won't want to play with him because they will want to climb further themselves. When you're playing solo queue, you are doing it for yourself. You're doing it so you can get better, so you can make those achievements. Those achievements still mean something. Just because someone cheated or abused the system to get in doesn't mean that your achievement means any less. If someone cheats their way through medical school, okay, and they steal all the answers to all the tests, by the end, they'll still have the PhD just like you will, but you will be an actual doctor. You actually belong in a hospital. That other person who relied on Dynamic Queue can't even play a single ranked game without his entire party. Otherwise, he knows he's probably going to lose. And if you ever come across that person in your lane, most likely, you'll dumpster them. So what is Riot actually doing to make sure that Dynamic Queue and Solo Queue players have a more even playing field? Their basic idea is what they did with Duo Queue when Solo Queue existed, which is the enemy team that does not have a pre-made team, their team will have slightly better players than your team who does have pre-mades. So for example, if your team has, say, 5 gold players, the enemy team might have a gold 3, a gold 2, and then a few gold 4s, but your team has the pre-made team. Now, I don't really know if this approach will work. It might just discourage people from playing Dynamic Queue altogether, but I do think this change is probably going to stay. What I feel like Dynamic Queue has basically become, I feel like it's basically become a scapegoat to everyone's anger towards the game. I feel like a lot of people are simply, they're burnt out with League of Legends. They don't want to play anymore. They're sick of the game. And if you are tired of this game, if you don't have fun playing this game anymore, then absolutely, you should quit League of Legends. Absolutely, without a doubt. Not liking a game anymore is one of the best, no, actually, it is the best reason not to play a game anymore. If you legitimately don't find League of Legends any more fun, then don't play. Stop playing, all right? It's not going to be fun for you. It's not going to be fun for your teammates. Just stop playing. Go play Hearthstone. Go play Witcher. Go play Overwatch. Overwatch. That shit looks so fucking fun. I mean, I haven't played a single game of Overwatch, yet I know every single character's abilities by heart. I mean, it's just, God, that fucking game looks fun. Or don't play video games at all. Go play basketball. Go play soccer. Go play with yourself. I don't think really anyone has gotten burnt out playing with themselves. I guess your dick just kind of runs out. It's different, but you know what I mean. I'm still gonna play League because I still love it. I still enjoy it. So that's how bad Dynamic Queue really is.